Are you ready for drinking? Drawing? What about laughing? Well, hold on to your butts. It's the ComX's Friday Night Drink and Draw, with your hosts Sizzle and Spedsy, as well as a bunch of Australia's best-looking creators and artists, many of whom have books for sale at ComX.shop. Hey, Sizzle, what say we start the shizzle? Best-looking creators and artists, many of whom have books for sale at ComX.shop. Hey,
who's watching us on YouTube at the same time?
Wow.
Oh, someone's watching at the same time. Who's doing that?
I'm getting some delays going on.
Yeah.
Do you know who's doing that?
It's not Kayleen.
No, it's not me.
It's not me. Don't worry. I don't.
Is it me?
Don't think it's me.
Either.
Turn off all your browsers.
No, it's not me.
It's not me
It's
either. I
Dave.
just checked if it's like my
It's Dave.
I just cancelled Dave and it's him.
deadly.
Professional show here, peeps.
You've got it open somewhere, Dave.
Everyone enjoyed Dave's face as he panics. Whoa.
All right, let's start this thing.
Yeah. Okay, so bringing together some of Australia's greatest artists to draw a character created by each week's special guest. This week's special guest is none other than Gary Chaloner, of Cyclone Comics fame. Our artist will be drawing his character, the Jackaroo.
Correct.
Over to you.
So how's everyone going? Let's look at your drawings. What have you done in pre-prep? 95% of the drawing already done?
More than I should have. What?
I only have this much done. See?
Nice.
Yes, welcome to the show, everybody.
Stick true to the fact of the matter, Gary, and try and start like a little bit after.
So my name is Rob, aka Spedsy. Next to me is the man they call Quick. His girlfriend calls him Quicker. Bang. He's faster than a speeding budgie. It's Nicholas Cleary.
Hello.
Hey, Nick.
And then we have the leader of the Blue Star Rebellion, available now on Webtoons. It's Kayleen Harris.
Hello.
And then everybody join me in saying, "What up, fool?" to Alex Major.
What up, fool?
Hey, Alex.
Where is everyone?
Everyone's like,
What
why
up?
are we
Hello,
being
everybody.
so harsh to Alex? And the guy who's getting set for a big 2022, it's the birthday boy, Lee Chalker.
Birthday today.
There you go.
Is it your birthday?
Happy birthday.
Well, it is in a couple of days, mate, but the last week's felt like a bloody long birthday, let me tell you.
Okay, so it's the festival begins.
Yeah, indeed, mate. Indeed. Why not? Every Friday night's a festival for me, Gary. Every day that ends with Y, generally, mate. So...
Next to Lee, we have the man who hates drawing water and eagles, but he's just so damn good at it. It's Peter Lawson.
Hey.
And then returning to the show, finally, it's the man who's been dropping some badass concept art for Vamoose 3. Self-plug there. It's Robbie Donaldson.
Robert.
Hey guys.
And then, of course, Dave Dye, who'll be back with us in just a second, the man whose tales are amazing, as is his resemblance to Old Man Biscuit.
Biscuits, yeah.
Another shameless plug. Anytime I can make it reference back to me.
Too much action here for my
track.
bandwidth.
And then the man who we are here to talk with and about, ladies and gentlemen, it is Gary Chaloner. Thank you for joining us, Gary.
Again,
Hello,
yes.
Gary.
Now, the question on everybody's lips that we need to know, Sizzle, if you can boost me up for a sec, because this is very important. Gary, what exactly did you do in this book? Because the internet tells me you were an inker on a part of it, and then inside it, it says you were a finisher. What did you do, and where is your work, and how can I look at it?
There's a couple of pages in there that Ashley Wood penciled, and I inked his pages. I think there might be maybe 3 pages in there that inked and finished by me, whatever that means. But a finisher, I suppose, it really depends on how finished the pencils are when they get to you. And they deemed that Ashley's stuff was fairly light on, so I got the finisher credit. But that whole project was pretty messy as far as deadlines went. So that's why the credit page on that book, there's about 1,000 artists trying to get all the job done.
It took me longer
But,
to read the credits.
I am actually in there. So up front, I think the page is where I think there's a full page of Mondo in a tube. That's a full page, and there's a couple of pages before that up the front of the book, I think.
This one?
Yeah, that's one of them.
Oh, nice.
Ashley did the pencils on that, and I think before that, a couple of pages before that, I think.
Oh, right. So maybe even like the first page and this.
Yep, that page. Yes, I remember that well. Yep, that one. And yep, that one. Yeah, those three, I think.
How does that come about? Such like an odd job like that, like 3 pages in a Marvel book.
Do you want the short version or the long version?
We've got all night, mate. It's up to you.
Yeah, all the short version is that it was Ashley's work.
I want the long version, mate. Just
it was Ashley's project, and he was supposed to draw the whole book, and he had a big deadline crunch where I sort of got in touch with him and said, hey, because we were buddies at the time, and I said, hey, if you need a hand getting this job done, I can help out. And so I was doing some of these initial pages, but he got into so much of a deadline crunch that they took it away from him, basically. So, the deal was I was going to finish the pages to make them turn around faster for him, but he just couldn't establish a rhythm with the project, and he had too much else on, and it was just something that had to give. So Marvel basically went yoink, and I was there going, hey, but what about me inking the rest of the book? And they went, nah, no. And so they gave it to a whole different suite of other artists who could finish it all off. So, one of the few times that I wasn't responsible for it being late.
Yeah. Had you done Marvel work before that?
When did that come out? That was in 95. And I think before that, I worked on The Olympians for Epic Comics, which was a 2-issue series that a Kiwi writer who was living in London at the time, Stephen Jewell, wrote. And he got the deal with Epic Comics. With Carl Potts as the editor, and he had pitched. I don't know whether anyone knows. I think is he an English artist? Anyway, Spider is his name, Spyder, and he was around in the 90s, big time, but he couldn't do it. He pulled out. So they. Stephen got in touch with me and asked me whether I wanted to do the project, and so no development work had been done on it at all, no character designs or anything like that. So I was able to get involved with that project from an early stage as the second choice, I suppose. Yeah. Yeah,
right.
So I think that's my Marvel career, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So the character we're here to draw, of course, is the Jackaroo. Debuted in 85, is that right?
Yes, in print. Yeah, that's right.
I believe, as the story goes, he was originally meant to be a superhero or part of a superhero team, but then little something called the Southern Squadron started, and it made you kind of change directions a little bit.
I think that's essentially the way it goes. I actually sent through some pages to be flashed up as the show goes along, so you'll get to see some of that a little bit later on as well, I think.
Sure.
But, awesome. I actually uncovered this original art. There's like a 24-page story that is half inked and I think mostly penciled. But and it filled in. This is only last week, so I was looking through some archive boxes, and right down the bottom were these slab of original art pages that I was going, this story, I remember this, and it actually fills in a little bit of Cyclone history from 1984, 85. That this story would have been what I was going to do, I think, if memory serves, because I'm old now, before Dave actually come on board with the squadron. So at the time, I would have known Tad. I would have known Glenn because he did a little bit of inking on this project. I would have known Alex Grancher, who inked the Golden Age Southern Cross strip for Cyclone, and a few other artists that were around at the time, but there was no sign of Dave. So I got a feeling that all this story was pushed along pre-Southern Squadron, and and it would have been the direction that I had taken the characters in, but then the squadron came along, and the situation was switched where the squadron filled that fourth slot in the anthology title, and this story was sidelined, and probably at the time as well, the couple of new artists that I was dealing with probably moved along, and I was having problems getting the story finished because it was all broken up in art teams. Each chapter was 8 pages, and it was broken up into separate art teams. And I think at the time there may have even been some artists that wandered away, and some chapters weren't finished and not supplied and things like that. So not the easiest solution was to go with the squadron, but I was quite happy to set it aside and cherry pick one of the characters that I thought had the most potential. The one thing I did notice, though, that even back then I had used Tad's Golden Age Southern Cross character as the leader of the team. Yeah. That's exactly what I'm doing now with Cyclone Force. So never waste a good idea.
Yeah.
So you'll see some of that artwork a little bit later on as well, which has been at the bottom of a box for 35 years or whatever it is. So it'll be seen for the first time. Hasn't even been scanned yet. The scans that I took were really rough ones just for this show that hasn't been professionally scanned or anything. And the pages are half finished. Very early work. It's a bit cringeworthy, but you got to start somewhere. But it's just interesting seeing the origins of these things. And yes, the Jackaroo had his green and gold super suit on and his little mask that he had on that you'll see a bit later on as well. So
cool.
The origins of the Jackaroo was as a super suited. I don't know what his powers would have been beyond being able to operate a whip or something like that. But anyway, that was an interesting little bit of Cyclone history, I suppose. Yeah.
Cool. I think I read in one of your issues, Gary, that the only power that the Jackaroos got was from Origin or something like that. Was that right?
Origin that day, sorry.
Oh, I'm on my telephone now. I'll have to get first. Like, in one of your stories, Gary, you mentioned that someone said, "What's your special power, Jackaroo?" And he said, "The only power I've got is through Origin energy."
The only power I've got, I get billed for once a quarter.
That's it. Yeah.
That's good.
Can you tell us a little bit about Jackaroo himself, like the character, what his motivations, all that sort of stuff?
Well, I suppose, from a character's point of view or from a creator's point of view, because there's two different ways.
I'd love to hear both if you've got the time.
Okay. Oh yeah. I've got nothing else to do, so I'm in for the long haul.
Awesome. We're going on
creatively, I was actually thinking about this because I knew what I was going to be talking about him, and I was trying to figure out where I came up with this, the desire to do this non-powered style character, and considering that I've just uncovered this super group that he was going to be in, because the characters in that group were the Southern Cross, the Jackaroo, a character called Ringtail, Bandicoot, Kookaburra. So there was some animal superhero names as well, which again, is a default, not a very original concept at all, which probably is another reason why I sidelined the whole thing. But so there was this, Australian style Jackaroo character. And at the time, I wasn't even really into Will Eisner or anything like that at the time either. So I can't even say that he's a shallow rip-off of, that's looking very nice.
Nice, Dave.
A shallow rip-off of the Spirit, because at the time I can honestly say that's not the way I was thinking. In thinking about it, my inspiration for the Jackaroo was probably going back to that old Clint Eastwood movie, Every Which Way But Loose and Every Which Way You Can. Anyone ever see those movies? He's a bare-knuckle fighter.
Orangutan.
With the monkey. Yeah, that's right, yeah. There's the toilet.
What?
Always the toilet.
It's funny that
to work myself into these things.
I actually drew an issue of the Badger for First Comics, and I did a little cameo. It was set in Dugga Dugga, where the Jackaroo lives, and there's a little cameo page of all the action rumbling past the outhouse that Jack Keegan's doing a crap in, and the whole toilet falls apart, and he's there going, geez, guy can't even take a decent crap these days without getting interrupted. That's his little cameo. So, yeah, Jackaroo has experience with toilets. Yes.
Funny you should mention Dugga Dugga. Can you take a quick sidebar and tell us where the name Dugga Dugga came from?
Well, you can blame Phil Barlow for that, because I think Dugga Dugga is a sound effect in a Zooniverse comic that was he was getting published with Eclipse back when I was first starting out with the Cyclone material, and there's a little sound effect in there of, I think, of one of his amazing little alien characters being stretched or something like that around his neck, and the head pops back and just goes dugga 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 dugga.
Yeah.
So I thought Dugga Dugga really sounds like Wagga Wagga and all those kind of country towns. So yeah, Dugga Dugga stuck. So
yeah,
thanks, Phil Barlow. It's a small world.
Yeah.
That works.
So anyway,
I got a quick question, Gary. Does your fez have like a little stringy on the back, or is it just like a cup?
Oh no, there it is.
Nice.
Cool. All right, I know. There you go.
For those who watch the
This
show
helps me
religiously,
with my creativity.
I haven't had a cringe in years.
every question Alex asks always has it's like mine, always have an ulterior motive. Mine is to work myself into it. Alex is to somehow work. What bits can I take and put in my little animation for later in the show? So
just so people know, I do it during the show live, so I'm not cheating.
Well, we know you're putting the string on the fez during the show. That's how much we know.
That's all I'm drawing. It's just a string on a fez. It'll just.
There he is. Yeah. Hi, Clint. Hi, Clyde. How you going? Left turn, Clyde.
That's it.
Sorry, Gary, to derail you and then derail you within the derailing. So Jackaroo.
So to me, I was really amused and inspired by that character, the Clint Eastwood character, who was just a laid-back kind of character who was good at fist fighting, bare fist fighting, and getting into all kinds of weird adventures with, stupid bikie gangs, trying to kill him or get revenge on him, and the bikie gang was really hopeless and pathetic. And like in the second movie, there was this big illegal fist fight, where all these gangsters from Las Vegas would fly into this country town, and the fight would like sprawl all over the town as the climax to the movie. And I just thought, that was, pretty bloody entertaining. So I wanted to lace that stupid element of storytelling into the Jackaroo's adventures as well. And by which stage I had met up with Tad and with Glenn and Dave and Alex and all the Cyclone gang, and that exposed me even more to the Will Eisner material, and I suppose that's where that influence came into it as well, with the masked adventurer. But the mask was there from the get-go, and again, I've got some old artwork there that I will show that the mask has always been there, and it's just been dumped recently because it's so integral, really, and doesn't really work. But Jack Keegan as a character thinks that it's an appropriate thing for him to sneak around with a mask on and no one will recognize him, but everyone does. So that's the character in the world.
So just in my references, what color is the mask?
It's a red hanky. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
A red hanky with holes cut in it, because that's all he could sort of arrange for at the time. Yes.
Is it at least 80% cotton or other material?
How detailed is your animation going to
be? Nothing but highest quality for Gary. That's all I'm saying. Just want to make sure it's all.
That's right. Yes.
Exactly. I'm trying to make Pixar embarrassed about their output recently. Not trying to speak myself up or anything, but
I'm sure they're watching too. Hi, the entire corporation Pixar. Watch it.
Lift your game, boys.
Speaking of Will Eisner and the Spirit, you weren't speaking about the Spirit, but obviously there's been a connection made, some influences taken from the Spirit, and then you went on to work on the Spirit. I know we're totally jumping, which I'll do. We're going to jump all over the place. But how did that come about? You working on the Spirit?
Let's see. That would have been Kitchen Sink Press, and that would have been when they were doing the new adventures. And I had gotten in touch with them with some ideas for a story for the series. And Kitchen Sink at the time were going through some financial. I think they were being sold, and so they're going through winding down. But the actual Will Eisner series of the New Adventures of the Spirit lasted for 8 issues, and my story, which I had fully produced and coloured and the whole bit, was complete and ready to go for the 9th issue. But Kitchen Sink closed their doors, and they didn't get to publish the 9th issue. So I was the only creator that had finished a story for the 9th issue, funnily enough. I do know that there were a couple of writers, American writers, that had done stories for that 9th issue. I had got a script from Mike Barron, who was supposed to have a story put in that one as well, but only got as far as the script stage. So I've got a copy of that lying around somewhere. But so this story was sitting there, and I had rung up Kitchen Sink trying to find, trying to get pay and trying to get some sort of answers as to how I can get this story published. And very nice, coming along nicely.
Nice, Dave.
And in doing that and dealing with my editor on the title at the time, she got me in touch with Dennis Kitchen direct, and we struck up a relationship via fax and phone calls, because this is before email sort of kicked in. And Dennis and I got along quite famously, and we've been friends ever since, really. But he was quite understanding of the situation, but he was trying to explain to me that, it wasn't in receivership, but it was being the title of the company was changing hands to another set of business, and he had no say in it anymore because he was winding it down, and his role in the company, he had no power anymore. But he was still the agent for Will Eisner, handling Will Eisner's original art and any licensing of his projects. So I kept in touch with Dennis, and essentially over the series of 3 or 4 months that this was happening, I said to him, well, if I can't get this Spirit story published, is there a way perhaps you might be interested in me developing some of Will's old characters and I was thinking of initially of a web comic, because web comics were just starting to be quite trendy at the time, and I thought, that'll be an easy way to do a page, upload it, and when you have 24 or 48 pages, you can find a print publisher. So that was the plan that I put to Dennis, and Dennis went, well, if you've got plenty of time on your hands, I'm sure Will's open to ideas, so I'll put it to him. So Dennis got in touch with Will, and then Will quite liked the idea, so he got in touch with me, and we organised to do the John Law material. And using my brain, I thought, this is the way that I can use this story. So I turned the Spirit story into a John Law story, which is quite ironic because back in the day, back in the 40s, Will Eisner, when he first produced the John Law material, he had all these stories produced. He was trying to open up a range of comics, baseball comics, John Law comics, and I think Cupid comics, a cute little baby comics. He was going to open up a little range of publishing for himself. And baseball comics was released, but it didn't go very well. So he didn't move forward with John Law and with Cupies and any other titles that he had in mind. So he had a lot of material that he converted from John Law stories into Spirit stories. And that turned into be some of the most famous stories in the Spirit run, where the Spirit was on the trail of his ex-girlfriend when he was a child. So it was like the origin of Denny Colt, which was really originally the origin of John Law. So it was flipped around the other way, that I was getting my story made into a John Law story, while before the John Law stories were turned into Spirit stories. So it all sort of had a synchronicity to it, I suppose. So so I ended up working on John Law, and that's another story. That's not the Jackaroo, but yeah.
Can you see the question?
Gary, how did I meet Will Eisner? Well, Will had come out in the comic book convention in 1986. That's where the Cyclone guys first met Will, as he was a guest at the convention. The convention was, as you've heard from Tim McEwen and probably a few other guests, was kind of like a very important catalyst event for a lot of different things in Australian comics. And Will and Jim Steranko and John Dixon and Franz Cantor were all guests of this show. And because it was so badly organised, and the Cyclone guys were so well organised, the organisers of the con, who are running around in a absolute flat, kept on leaning on us to sort of escort Will to room B for his talk. And can you sit down with Will and talk about the history of comics, and can you do this and do that? And so we got to know Will quite well at that convention. And he when I got in touch with him years later about the John Law material, he remembered coming to Australia, but he didn't remember any of us. So, but that's okay.
That's a bit heartbreaking.
So I sort of met him twice, really. The first time was back in '86, and the second time was through the John Law project, where he was, in his late 80s, and quite happy to see an old character be revived again.
Nice.
But as I noticed, I think it was Daniel mentioned there on the little text line that Spirit story did actually get printed as a Spirit story in a hardcover collection of the new adventures that finally got published. So yeah, the story was published eventually. So Gaz reworked it back from John Law to the Spirit. Yep, indeed, yeah. So So my story did see print both as a John Law story and then in colour as a Spirit story in the collected new adventures. So double pay, I win.
Nice, Dave.
Looking good, Dave. Looking good.
Wow.
At Incan now.
Can't wait.
Speaking of all the Cyclone guys, so correct me if I'm wrong. Before Cyclone, the idea was that you guys were going to team up with the Oz comic people for a title or something together, but then you ended up the whole company split in two to make Cyclone and Fantastique.
There was a pool of creators that had all coalesced at the same time, and there were discussions being had at that early stage as to what to do and how to do it. And through those series of discussions, whether it was over a series of weeks or a series of months, it just became quite obvious that there was interests that sort of and tastes and style that sort of split the group of the people. That it wasn't in a bad way, it was just a natural progressive thing that some people wanted to do this and some people wanted to do that more. And so there was just this natural progression of the group that decided to become Fantastique and the group that decided to become Cyclone. And and Dave DeVries was the guy that straddled both, because he was working with the horror stuff with Fantastique, and he did Squadron with Cyclone. So, there was a point there where there was a lot of discussion about doing a single anthology title, but it just didn't have longevity, because the parties involved, I mean, Steve Carter, for example, just as one person, had very strong opinions on what he wanted to do and how he wanted to do it. And that just flew in the face of a whole swag of other people who just weren't on the same train as what Steve was. So it was just a natural thing of, hey, it's great that's why there was a lot of cross promotion and support of each other when Fantastique started and Cyclone started, that there wasn't any animosity. It was just two projects developed out of a single meeting of a group of people over a series of months. So that's how I remember it anyway. Yeah.
What was it about superheroes, do you think, and vigilantes and just heroes, that the Cyclone guys, it all drew you to that sort of way of storytelling?
Oh, yeah, I think our origin stories are all pretty much the same. I mean, you could line up, Tim McEwen, Glenn Lumsden, Tad, even Dave DeVries to a certain extent as well. And the origin story is pretty much the same, raised on a variety of comics from an early age, generally Marvel or DC. But if you go even earlier than that, the Disney material, and just get bitten by the bug from a very early stage. And that's not to say that someone like Dave has quite successfully written horror and non-superhero material. But that I think there's like a common bond between all of us, that our origins are movies, monster movies, classic cinema, classic comics from the 70s and even earlier. Lovely. And that's where the common linkage is. And of course, you bump into 1970s and 1980s comics with the classic standards of Barry Smith's Conan and Paul Gulacy's Master of Kung Fu and Rich Buckler's Deathlock and Killraven with Craig Russell and all these things that all of them would probably say, oh yeah, one of my favorites. And so there was this there was this commonality there that just made it easy for the team to get together.
In those days, I believe you shared a studio with Glenn Lumsden, and I mean, on the Mount Rushmore of Australian comic book artists, it's pretty much just you two guys' heads twice. What was that like sharing? Like, was it competitive or inspiring, or you got to see each other's work? And yeah,
it was inspiring because Glenn was developing at light speed his art style, and he was deciding what he wanted to do and what kind of art he was trying for. So he tried for everything. So he was amazing to watch. When I was living with him, I've always been a bit of a plodder as an artist. A bit of the old Dave Stevens perfectionism, which I think Glenn Lumsden now has a dollop of with his Phantom work, which is great. I mean, but back in the day, he'd shoot from the hip. As far as in the morning, he'd wake up and before he'd go to work, there was a comic page sitting on the drawing board and it was like half done, and he'd sit down there with his cornflakes or a cup of coffee and sort of quickly finish off a panel or a panel and a half, or half pencil another panel, and then he'd go off to work. And then he worked just up the road, so he'd come back at lunchtime and he'd sit down and sort of do another half a page. And while I was there going, no, everything has to be, the light has to be right and the music just right, and my coffee cup is just here and my pencils are lined up just here. Right, I'm in the mood. Oh, damn, the phone's rung. That's me ruined for the day. So I was that extreme.
Relatable.
While, Glenn was very much a, he could, if he didn't have his socks on, he could probably pencil a really decent panel with his left foot, So, and he was working on so many things too. He was working on the Golden Age Southern Cross material, which was his love at the time, his main story at the time. But he'd help with inking the Jackaroo stuff. He'd do other stories that other people said, hey, Glenn, do you want to have a go at doing this? He was just all over the place. And that was, amazing to experience, and a little bit disheartening because he was so productive. But he'd probably look back on all that stuff now and cringe a fair bit. But that's his prerogative now that he's doing what he's doing and how he's doing. I think he's found himself now. So more luck to him.
We had an awesome question from Darren.
Yeah,
Close.
I'll just bring that back up.
I'm curious how you came about Flash Domingo and how you intertwined him with the Jackaroo, an otherwise fairly grounded character. Well, that's it. I mean, the contrast of those two characters, you couldn't not put them together. And then you introduce a character from outer space. Yeah, right. Yeah. Well, that was the idea of why not put someone as ridiculous as Flash Domingo, or a little creature that's Flash Domingo, and throw him in with a grounded, normal kind of character like Jack Keegan, like, hey, let the comedy flow.
Nice.
Because I think Darren comes from that sort of world too, where while you go, all right, it's an anthropomorphic kangaroo, it's kind of crazy, but it's obviously a grounded character that is in the real world, and there are no space platypi flying around. I believe.
But I've never considered.
Follow-up question.
I've never considered Flash Domingo anthropomorphic in the true sense of the word. Where you'd go to a furry convention or something like that because you had this character to market. I think Flash Domingo came from a Cerebus the Aardvark kind of background. Rocket Raccoon, I was really annoyed when Rocket came out because it sort of stole, I felt that it stole a bit of my thunder, but that happens a lot in comics where the right timing for characters, and so I take a lot of that on the chin these days. But Flash Domingo, I think there's a heavy dollop of Cerebus the Aardvark in there. I read it when it was being released, and again, like the idea of a sawn off fish out of water character that is not cute. He may look cute, but he's definitely not cute, and that sort of allows for some interesting stories as well Inking already.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
Dave's the
get on with it.
machine.
Dave, every time you add ink to your pencil, there's like this extra life that you give to it, and I love it.
See what happens tonight.
Has
It's always
anyone
a
else got
raffle.
some art progress that we could see?
I'll surprise you at the end.
Yeah.
Surprise us at the end.
What about you,
What
Robbie?
about you, Peter? Lee?
Yep.
Oh, I'm having a slow night.
Oh, okay.
I'm just chilling, listening.
Yeah.
I'll show you.
There we go, Kayleen. Yep.
Ooh.
Oh, hang on.
Oh,
There he
Look
is.
at his
Nah.
shirt.
Oh, nice.
Fully intact shirt.
That's a good
Nice.
one.
Very nice.
fully intact shirt. Lovely.
Just like, okay, I got a question because, like, I remember when I got into the comic scene in the late '90s, early 2000s, there was like a very American-centric focus of like Australian comic guys getting into the American scene, Marvel, DC, or something else. But I remember when I got into comics a little bit later, I discovered a lot of the French stuff and European comics. And I actually found with your art style, it was actually a little bit more similar to stuff like I would see like in Metal Hurlant or 2000 AD. Like it wasn't that typical super, it's just like this little bit of different take on it. Have you ever looked into that? Was there ever any inspiration? Do you have any stories with that side of the comics world that was maybe...
Yeah, the only European influence I can honestly fess up to is reading a lot of Tintin and being inspired by that clear line artwork to a certain extent. I wasn't a big Dread reader or 2000 AD. I used to work in a newsagent, so I got exposed to the comics that would come out a lot then, but they weren't like take-homeable. They were flick through and check out what's going on, but they weren't necessarily a huge influence like they have been on a lot of other creators. So the biggest European takeaway for me was Tintin, I suppose, and the way that sense of rollicking adventure that is not super powered, although there may be some fantastic elements to it, but it's more pacey and fast paced and going 1,000 miles an hour. Yeah, I did actually, Dave. Yeah, there was a couple of hours up in King's Comics, up at Chris's office, where when he came out as a guest to one of the cons, that I chilled with him for a while and compared notes. He had actually drawn an advertising piece of Cerebus and Flash Domingo. Of course, Flash was used by Ozcon as their little logo from year to year. So there was a piece of art that had Cerebus the Aardvark standing alongside Flash Domingo, and they were trying to out-superhero each other. So I thought that was quite cool. I've actually got the original here, I think, that I can show. Do you mind me ducking away to see if I can find it real quick?
Go for it.
Yeah.
What about Mr. Chalker? Do you want to show us something while Gary's away? Or oh, golly, look at that!
Oh, wow.
Cool.
Very nice.
Looking fantastic.
No, it's buried further down in the archive box than I thought. Anyway, I do have a scan of it here. If I can dig it up on my computer, I can show that while you keep on talking.
Sure. However, all my talking is going to be aimed at you.
Someone showed us. Someone
just
showed
ask
us
a very long
an
question.
Okay. Well, all right. So the original Adventure Illustrated #1 had a print run of about 1,000 copies. So theoretically, there are 1,000 out there for those of us who missed it at the time and would like to get a copy. However, I believe something occurred that has now made those comics quite rare and a collector's item, if you will.
Yeah.
Do you want me to vamp longer? Or
do you know what that event is?
I have an idea, yeah.
Well, okay. So it was all put together, this Adventure Illustrated #1. It was all, and it had been stored on pallets in the printer's warehouse for us to go away and pick up at some stage the following week over a series of weeks. And it was like a promotional issue that had some blank pages on the back cover and stuff like that. So it was like a sample book that we could take away to people, comic shops and businesses and say, hey, this is the actual book. It's all done. Would you like to buy some advertising for the back cover and things like that? So it was a complete first issue, and a small print run had been developed. But Sydney, being the kind of place that it is, was having torrential downpours and storms at the time. So the book was printed. The print run was stored on pallets in the printer's warehouse, and only a handful had been taken off the top to go back to the studio and to share with the gang, say, wow, we've got our first comic, it looks fantastic. So there was only about 3 or 4 copies that actually made it from the printer's warehouse into our hands. We got a call the next day after that saying that the storms that had happened overnight, the printer's warehouse had been inundated with storm water, the roof had fallen in, and all this storm water had landed on the pallet of comics and destroyed everything, so it all had to be binned. So that's what happened to Adventure Illustrated #1. And so there's only 3 or 4 issues around. I'm really not sure what the final number is. I know I have one that's with Daniel Best at the moment. Tad's got one. There might be 1 or 2 other ones. One has been deposited with the National Library, I think. But other than that, the print run was destroyed in storms in Sydney. So no good.
So it never got
Somebody from
reprinted
Sydney, I apologize.
Well, I'm from Sydney too, so that's what you get. Those summer storms, So so it never got reprinted. But what happened was, at the time that the Cyclone guys were always thinking, and it was always changing from, the Fantastique gang teaming up with the Cyclone gang, and then splitting off, and then 2 books, and then Adventure Illustrated was, I would think, what I was going to publish before the gang got together firmly, because there was, in the first book, there was a Dark Nebula chapter, there was a Harry Patterson and Flash Domingo chapter, a very early version of that, and there was a little story in the middle called Grit Grinder, which was a comedy World War II American Sergeant Grit Grinder, and he was just a deadhead, he just like power through like the Hulk almost, where he'd get shot, you'd actually see bullet holes, and you could see through his body, and he wouldn't get hurt by it. And the next page, all that damage would be gone, and he'd just keep on powering through to, like it was a comedy World War II strip essentially. So yes, I could feel seeing the dollar signs rolling on that one. So so that was Adventure Illustrated #1, and then between Adventure Illustrated 1 and Cyclone 1, which was a magazine size book, that's when the Squadron came along, and the contents of the book was revamped and revised, and the Cyclone #1, the A4 magazine, was released. And that's what changed between Adventure Illustrated and the Cyclone #1.
Wow. And we've got a question here from Darren Close. I'll just throw that in there. Please do.
A rumour has it you might be starting a podcast. Can you tell us a bit more about that? Well, considering it was supposed to be secret, no, I can't say anything about that. No.
Oh, good on you, Darren.
With the Kickstarter coming up for Adventure Illustrated #2, I was going to start a semi-regular podcast of talk about Australian comics from my point of view, I suppose, and have a panel of artists that come in every night and draw and drink and talk. Oh, that's been done. No, just a podcast.
I smell a lawsuit.
It'll never work. I was going to call it ComWy's podcast. So I've actually recorded the first episode, which is a bit of a test episode to get all the equipment sorted out, as I'm sure Sizzle will be aware of there, the problems involved with all that side of things. It's going to be called Club Domingo, which you can thank Darren Close for the title. So we're just getting the club fitted out at the moment with some nice decorations and some leather lounges and pillows to throw on the ground and incense, and getting the ambiance all set up for the shows. And
Sweet.
We'll see how we go. So
And go and visit
almost-
one of those strange tobacconists, Gary, that have those rather large pipe-looking things that like have 8
Yeah. And those coffee machines that you bend over to pour into the small Turkish coffee cups. It's all about the feds.
Yeah,
So anyway, yeah. So
work, you're onto something.
yeah. So anyway, that's Club Domingo, and hopefully that'll be launching in the next week or two. And one of the first guests on there that I'm going to try and get into Club Domingo, if the bouncers will let him come in, is Darren Close.
I'd happily be on it. Oh, I see.
Oh, nice.
Looking good.
Devil's Toilet.
Yeah, we're going to have Darren on the show in a couple of weeks, I believe. So it'd be good in time for Old Man Rufus Kickstarter, which launches November 15th, I believe.
And Adventure Illustrators launching on November 16th, the day after. So I'm sure he'll tell you even more of my secrets when he is a guest on the show.
Well, yeah, when you're going head-to-head competing, he's going to out all your dirty laundry.
Oh, yeah. Well, it'll be more side by side. Side by side we'll be going.
Yeah.
I can't compete with the Kickstarters with Daz. Can't do that. He's the king of them all.
What can you tell us about Adventure Illustrated 2? I mean, speaking of the man behind Killaroo, I believe Killaroo makes an appearance in number 2.
Yes, there's a story there where Flash Domingo meets the Killaroo. And
awesome.
That'll be that takes up the chunk of my space for the second issue. Red Kelso is happening. The second chapter of that is happening at the back as per usual, which is all the 1930s pulp style thing. And in the middle is the second chapter, which is absolutely fantastic, of Greener Pastures, Tim McEwen and Michael Michaelandos. Tim's artwork is just absolutely amazing. Sizzle, we've got some files there of the covers.
Yes,
that you
we
can
do.
Feel free to start doing your thing, and I can show some artwork off.
Yeah.
So start at A.
Start today, and I'll just talk through it. I think, if that's okay with everyone.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
This first one here is a Ryan Villa special of the Jackaroo and Flash Domingo. He did that a couple of months ago. He's a mutant, this guy. So I thought, since how the Jackaroo was the subject today, that we'd show that off, because it's a pretty amazing piece.
Absolutely.
So
Awesome.
good on you, Ryan. Thank you very much.
He's good, isn't he, that fella?
Yeah. Someone should use him somewhere.
Yeah, you probably like him, Lee. You should get in contact.
Yeah. Well,
It's a really nice page.
Well, that is page 2 of that project that I uncovered from the vault. So this is page 2 that shows the Jackaroo as a superhero in the top right, and it's a montage page of the other characters as well. So this is artwork from about 1984-85, very, very early Chaloner stuff. And that guy at the top left is a terrorist. He's not a member of some rock band singing a song. So on stage at a concert, taking control of the whole auditorium. So these heroes are arriving from different directions. They don't know each other yet. And so they're all approaching the auditorium to help with taking down the terrorists who are making it all difficult for the audience, that you can see in the background there. So top right is the Jackaroo. Working down clockwise, you've got Ringtail, who's the lady with the tail, of course. Then down from that, you've got the Golden Age Southern Cross. And then across the bottom there, you've got Kookaburra. And then back up again, you've got Bandicoot, who is basically just a Wolverine rip, sad to say. But so that was page 2. And that was some very early pencils and inks of mine from that lost project from the Cyclone that might have been.
The
So
next
there's a few more
one.
pages of this coming up. So this was a splash page that was added, or a splash panel that was added, showing the grand entrance of the group. I think this is, let's see, an artist name, I think Sue Hamilton was back in the day, helped with this early story. And I think this particular panel may have been even inked with a brush by a very young Glenn Lumsden. So as you can see there,
Oh, wow.
you've got the Jackaroo uniform on the right there with his mask on. The dark green top, or the dark top there is supposed to be green, and the rest of his uniform is gold. Southern Cross in the middle, Bandicoot on the left-hand side, Kookaburra top left, and Ringtail top right there. So that was your typical Avengers Assemble kind of shot.
I love too. Is that those the lines that they've been cut out and stuck on? Is that right?
I think there was a background there of zoom lines or action lines that
Oh, right.
weren't very good. So we just pasted something on there to get rid of them to make it a plain white background. Again, a lot of this stuff is half finished, so that background would have been replaced with something else.
No, I love seeing. I love seeing it like that.
Yeah, and as you can see, that's 1984, 1985 inking with a thick brush and the whole bit. So I don't know what the group was going to be called even. But who knows? It might be called Cyclone Force for all I know. But anyway, a group of Australian superheroes. So what's next there?
Well, here's page 12.
Okay, this is a scene that, again, someone, wasn't me. I think it might have been Sue Hamilton penciled this again, and another gentleman called Chris Spencer inked it. But it did show Jackaroo interacting with Ringtail, who had a prehensile tail and had a bit of a relationship with Jack, or was trying to crack onto him for some reason. So there's a scene there with the tail and him being kissed and being, wow, that's fantastic. And bottom left-hand side, he gets a bit overwhelmed because he's just a simple country guy who hasn't been taken advantage of like that by a woman with a prehensile tail before. So, as you can see, there's problems with his art, of course. So it all sort of adds up to reasons why it wasn't published. Like the shadow, the moody shadow in the Jackaroo's face on the panel 1 there is a little bit too blocky. It's a steep learning curve for all these young artists and we were young at the time as well. So it just shows, again, early versions of these characters. Hey, maybe we bring the Ringtail back.
Is it hard drawing a kiss like that? I've never drawn it because I'm terrified. I have no idea how to do it.
Side on, kissing is quite hard because you've got to be able to really understand what happens to the nose of each character when they're actually kissing. If the characters are wearing glasses or anything fancy on their face, that makes it even harder again. So you really got to do your research and kiss a lot of people and take a lot of photos and make sure that you get it right.
I tried to get my wife to help me with a reference photo, but she wasn't interested. She hasn't been interested in years.
One really good tip I heard with kissing is to draw a love heart and then have one character on one side of the love heart tilt their head one way and the other character tilt their head up the other way. So two faces kissing should form the silhouette of a love heart. And if you start off with that, then it'll work.
Very smart. Yeah.
Those are the sorts of tips.
So I've been paying for that subscription for that website for nothing. Rob, your suggestions.
Sorry, Gary.
This one is I think a very early, typical example of my art at the time. Very early Chaloner there. That's my inking as well.
It's really nice.
It's really cool.
It's awesome.
Pencils as well. So that's some early Chaloner there. Again, unfinished page. It's sort of it's very cringeworthy, but things like the poses at top right there of the character scratching the back of his neck and things like that. I mean, these are all things that I just have my little file of what kind of pose was. Yes, I haven't done that in a while. So
Gary, can I sorry to interrupt you, man? Just as someone who's like, I'm just absolutely head into art and drawing at the moment, man. Like, wow.
There you are.
Like, thank you so much for these pages. Like, I'm really myself just in a full-on learning process at the moment where I'm like just absolutely absorbing anything I can, taking what I can get out of it, and just, man, I've never.
Your stuff is so lovely and loose.
Wow.
Your stuff is so lovely and loose, while my stuff back then was so tight and hatchy, and I was unsure of myself, and every line was a little bit of a hatch here and there, and there was no smoothness or elegance to it at all. So
who were you looking at, Gary? Who was your inspiration for your Incan style? Where'd you get that from?
Yeah, I think I got that, Kate. Yeah.
Now the kiss. Oh.
Yeah, I think I've been to that convention. My inspirations.
You into this one?
Yeah, the bouncer, exactly. Yes. Now that it's been drawn, I've got to do this podcast now, I suppose.
Yeah, you just got the logo.
Yeah, just got a logo. Well, at the time, I think there was around the time I was doing that kind of drawing, I was probably influenced by, weirdly enough, people like Craig Russell, who is just a stupid comparison to make, but that elegant kind of pose and inking that he can get away with that I certainly was nowhere near even then. Not that I even am now, but back then it was like that's the kind of stuff that I was reading. So it would have been, Paul Galassi, it would have been, Gene Colan, would have been, Rich Buckler and all those guys that I mentioned before.
Yep.
Yep. Thanks, Dave. Thank you.
Yeah, I really like that little picture. How realistic the guy looked. How like not big, like a Rob Liefeld, more muscles than senses sort of thing.
Yeah, that would have come from Paul Galassi and his skinny kung fu bodies, and from Craig Russell and his operatic, very, very, lovely, laconic bodies, Rubenesque and things like that. So it would have come from those kind of artists. Again, also a huge dollop of Dave Sim with the inking style as well. Striving for that kind of precision and probably, failing dismally. But what's next? Is there a couple more pages there?
Yep, there's another one. There's this one.
That's the Bandicoot in full flight. He's got big steel gauntlets over his fists, so that when you get punched by him, it actually hurts a fair bit. So that's again a lot of cross hatching and little fiddly bits there that probably aren't required. But big impact page that I tend to draw the fun bits first and leave the unfun bits empty.
Gary, at what point did you do that? To me, that is beautiful. At what? Yeah. No. Good on you. But what point did you get to with that page and just go, nah? I'm going to.
Well, if you were to look through the whole 24 pages that I've got here, which I do all of them, but the project was very much the artist involved did some fun panels and left the rest. Did some fun panels, left the rest. So the whole project is dotted with, interesting panels, interesting figures, and then there's a lot of panels that are left that that that's a crowd scene or that's slightly more difficult panel, and it was all sort of left to last. Again, I wouldn't necessarily. I approach stuff a bit more. What's the next panel to draw? I'll do that next, more so than cherry picking good stuff first and leaving the hard stuff to last. But again, that just is an indicator of we're approaching things with no education on production whatsoever. It was just jumping in and swimming as best you could and trying to do the best you could. Like I would imagine that doing a splash page like that with the Bandicoot, that doing that main figure first would get you so revved up, particularly if you saw that it was actually turning out okay, that would push you through to do the rest of the page. Because I'm actually on fire, I'm actually working, and it's looking fantastic, and then power on through. Nice.
What's he kicking? Nobody knows.
Oh, he's kicking. Spodsy's at it again. Sorry, that was a joke today that came out in I saw it today and had a chuckle.
The typo, Spodsy.
The typo.
So wait, so Spuds is not a real dude? So who was actually writing fiction about?
Only on the outside. What's next on the Gary spills all these awesome pages?
What's the next image there? Yep.
Next, we've got a Cyclone Force cover.
This is the cover for number 2 when it's coming out. This is my cover. So that's a tease of Adventure Illustrated number 2. That's Flash and Opal and Killaroo looming over the top.
Fantastic.
Wicked.
Really nice.
You released that today, yeah? Because I'm pretty sure I saw that popping up on the Facebook pages today.
I've got a little banner in my Facebook page that has the Killaroo character from that image up there, so you might have bumped into that. This is the Tim McEwen Greener Pastures cover. which you may have seen last week, but it's worth showing again because it's so bloody fantastic.
Yeah.
And if you look really close at it, he's put a lot of effort into creating neon lights and a buildingscape and signage in the reflection of the glass.
It's
Yeah,
awesome.
and then doing a little bit of Photoshop work, I'd imagine. But you've got his co-star in the background there as well.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot his name. Anyway, both the cast members there from Greener Pastures. And
Does Trevor make his return?
Sorry?
So Trevor wasn't actually in part 1. Does he make his return in part 2?
Part 2, he is in it.
Awesome.
The artwork is absolutely spectacular. So it's a great chapter. The first one was a nice lead-in with that guy coming in from the ocean. But chapter 2 is absolutely spectacular. It really goes, ramps up to start telling the story properly.
Awesome.
So the third one,
kicking butt at the moment, Tim McEwen, is he?
He is indeed. Yeah, he's
crazy.
Yes, he's kicking all kinds of butt. There's a bum around there that's very sore. Yes.
Yeah. He's kicking his
very nice.
own.
Because Flash
Did you draw
and
this?
Rufus are fighting, we're doing a Oz Comics exclusive that you can only get via Daz, and so this is something that was based on a sketch that I did for the first issue for Daz, and he got it covered up, and we're using it as a cover for issue number 2. So that's going to be a specialty cover that'll be available as well.
And here's the next one. Oh, yeah, that's just a version of the.
Yeah, that's a version of my cover, but without any of the labeling on it. So you can see the lovely work that Graham Jackson's done with the colours. So that is a nice page just by itself without any of the branding on it. So I thought I'd show that as well.
Cool.
I like explosions. Explosions are good fun.
Oh,
Okay. Yeah. Got a lot of fans of explosions. This is just an interior page. This is the first page of the next chapter of Cyclone Force. It's a bit of a recap about the Golden Age Southern Cross's origin, the AWA Tower, features in the origin. I don't know whether you noticed that Glenn Lumsden's latest giant-size Phantom cover also has the AWA Tower in it as well. And we were both, without knowing it, we were both drawing the AWA Tower at the same time in York Street in Sydney. That was pretty bloody spooky.
I know it well.
Have the two Southern Crosses ever met in storyline?
There has been a crossover between the two time periods. So I think, if I remember the story correctly, they actually didn't meet, but there were some characters, like a young lady that aged through the decades to modern times. So there was a linkage of characters, but the actual two Southern Crosses, I don't think have met face to face.
Yeah, right. Awesome.
This is just a sample of the Flash versus Killaroo story as well, where they first meet. And then there's a battle royal after that for a little while as well. This one here is an announcement for a new title that I'm putting together next year. It's the Return of the Jackaroo. So that'll be
awesome.
Probably the first issue cover. Yeah, that's basically
that's a crack story, man. Honestly, that's a beauty.
Yeah, well, it's not totally original because it's a homage to Springsteen's Born in the USA album cover. And because the stories are set in 1985 and Springsteen's a big influence on me, I thought doing a cover ripping off that Born in the USA would be quite appropriate for the Jackaroo. So I thought
What's your favorite Bruce Springsteen album, Gary? I bet you it's Nebraska.
That's up there. His latest one's really good. I go through phases of, I can't pick a favorite. They're all good in one way or another. But so that's the Jackaroo, which is coming back next year. I'm going to do a series of mini-series, Return of the Jackaroo, and then another concept continuing on the stories as well. So which goes back to the beginning of what we were talking about tonight of the character, in that he's always been one that I've wanted to develop and never really had the chance because I've been distracted by crossovers and working on other people's characters and working overseas and doing all these other kind of projects. And now I'm finally able to get back to the character that started it all. And I'm realizing in hindsight, after 30 odd years, that there's a direction that the Jackaroo was actually going in that I wasn't aware of back then, but it's quite obvious to me now. And I'm doing those stories that really make a lot of sense for the character to experience. So the stories are going to be told in a. I don't know whether you've read many of the Conan stories, the original Robert E. Howard Conan the Barbarian stories, where it was each story was not necessarily in chronological order. So you jump from different periods of Conan's life, and there'd only be a little paragraph at the beginning saying this story is set when Conan is king, and that's all you really need to know. Then there's an older Conan, or the next story would be this is when he first left Samaria and he was a thief in Zambula, and then there'd be a story about him being a thief, and he's 17 or 18 years old.
Conan is the most underrated character ever, and Robert E. Howard's other creation, Solomon Kane, is brilliant as well, man. I got dozens of books in my boxes, man. I absolutely devoured Conan as a kid because that dude, he's not just a barbarian. He's he's a highly intelligent, and he's a gentleman. Like, he does his tasks, he goes about it, he's smart, man. Great character.
See, that's what pissed me off a little bit about the Marvel comics, is that Marvel gave him a uniform of his furry loincloth when he came down and was going from city to city. And he wouldn't have. He would have worn clothes like any of the city folk, but it's other attributes that would have set him apart as a barbarian or someone that wasn't from the cities. So, Jackaroo is a little bit like that. But the big similarity with Conan is that Conan was a lot of things across his life. Like he was a thief, he was a soldier, a mercenary, a pirate, a king, just a standard soldier. He was all kinds of things, but he's still called Conan the Barbarian. And yet after he lived his life, he'd been so many things. And I want that to be reflected in the Jackaroo's career as well. I mean, the Jackaroo is a young cowboy, learning the trade, tricks of the trade, cattle mustering and all different kinds of things. But then you outgrow that. And the same thing with Jack. Jack will experience different things, but he's still called a Jackaroo because that's the name that's stuck, and that's the label that's stuck. And he's not necessarily just that. We'll get to see him as an old bloke. We'll get to see him running an illegal club in King's Cross. You'll get to see him as a Jackaroo. You'll get to see him doing all kinds of things in his later life.
I love that. I love where you're coming from with that. You're a fucking legend. I'd like you even more after meeting you seriously after talking about that. That's exactly how I'm totally in sync with you, mate.
Good, that's one reader.
There's your thinking.
I've never looked so good.
You need to work on your legs.
Yeah, I know.
I'll skip leg day.
And while I've got the spotlight, here's Gary just jumping in as a young man.
I love the dainty, the pointy toes. I reckon that's great. Yeah, I do that. Yes.
You've got to point them. And someone mentioned something about Tim beating up something. I can't really remember, but that's about
kicking ass.
Well, while we've got a pause, I'm going to bring up some pictures that have been emailed to me. We've got Nick May. Can everyone see that? I'll do it twice.
Oh, great.
Good.
Yes. Son of a beast thing. That's amazing.
Button
we seem to have regulars. We seem to have regulars that send pictures in. We've got a new one tonight. I thought I'd show. We've got Onion Sprout. So I don't know who Onion Sprout is, but
nice.
They've
good.
Look at those
muscles.
Look at those muscles, all right.
Welcome, Onion Sprout.
And then we've got Robbie.
cool.
Oh, golly gosh.
It's depressing, isn't it? How good all these things are. Yeah. That's amazing.
Fantastic. Beautiful.
Thank
We've
you.
still got to pick on a few people. Oh, hang on. I got another email. Have you sent another one, Robert?
Yeah, it has a bit more blood.
Dave's trying to show something off.
Bit more blood. Okay.
Oh, Dave, that looks great. I love the black.
Oh, sorry. Just a
Bloody
second.
Dave died.
I was on another screen.
What a legend.
Deadly Dave.
Oh, wow. Dave went off while you were off camera.
Holy moly.
The Incan.
Nice one, Dave.
Not quite as good as Gary's Incan, but it's an attempt anyway.
Do you want to?
I'll go one.
Beautiful.
You can email it to me if you want to get a better.
Cool.
Oh no, that's coming up well.
Oh, that's a ripper.
Lovely.
Nice
That's
one.
very nice and
beautiful.
clean.
Pull it
wicked.
pull it right there. That's
That
rad.
is awesome.
That's
That
cool.
jawline. Awesome. Or cheek. Right, whatever that part of the thing is.
So, would you prefer a photo, or would you just rather me hold it up? What's easier for you?
Up to you, Lee.
Who's that?
I'll just hold it up, bugger. I'm tech terrible.
Lovely.
Oh, nice.
Fantastic.
Going for
Yeah,
the
awesome.
in the pose.
Who's he?
That's
who's
just
he
brilliant.
fighting?
Awesome, Lee.
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's a ripper, mate.
It's looking good.
Mhm.
So,
Well, I sort of see him as a bit of a beer drinking dude that, like, might get a bit cranky sometimes when he's got to do his mission.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Who's he
Lovely.
fighting? Johnny Ray.
Nice.
Nice, Pete. Nice.
Pete.
He's
Love
lining
it.
up with Johnny Ray, was it?
Oh
So,
yes, that's a
Fighting
name
Frank De Niro.
from the past. Yeah.
Fighting
Yeah.
Frank
Yeah.
De Niro.
that's everyone. That's everyone. So we can go to that part of the show.
Oh, hang on. I'm just
Well, we'll
adding
find out.
mine to the.
Oh, you're adding yours?
I'm just-
Okay, we'll do yours
I'm
first.
just sending mine through if you don't mind, Sizzle.
Okay.
What about Alex?
Well, Alex
What?
is last.
yeah.
All right, it's just loaded. It's loading now. Uploading.
Yeah, here we
Ping
go.
pong, ping pong. Wait for it. Here we go. Nailed it.
Yes. Yes from me.
Beautiful.
Very, very good. Very funny.
Okay, so now we're at the
Smile
point
on
where we
his
find
face.
out who is the hottest tonight.
Ooh, here we
Here
go.
we
Fingers
go.
crossed.
Oh,
Pete.
Oh,
Peter Lawson.
looks like Peter Lawson.
With a little bit of Robbie.
very nice.
Body
Pops up.
of
Throw that
Australian
back.
comics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where are
Jack
they?
has the chairs on as well.
Your plaque will be in the mail by Tuesday. I've got like 17 of them on my wall.
By Wednesday, May 2023.
Yeah.
Why aren't the shirts ripped to shreds?
Yeah.
Good question.
Yeah. Well, they got the old the yobbo rolled up to the bloody top on mine. You know the way they flash boys. They do
Harder to
that.
draw.
roll it right up.
Harder to draw all ripped up, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
did it all nice and neat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you have to
Yeah.
choose whether to show the nipple through the rip or the six pack or the exactly what's going to happen with that. Yeah. The decisions you have to make.
It's funny. I tried to put one of your pictures
The-
up. There was a black and white one where he's got his shirt ripped off on Discord, and the nudity bot banned the picture.
Great success.
Oh,
I tried again, and it wouldn't let me again.
yeah, right.
Now this
Yeah.
nudity
So that
bot. Is
picture's
that,
missing from the references because it wouldn't let me.
Great
I think
success.
there's another.
I didn't know that the Discord had a nudity bot. Can't you just tell them that we're all over 18?
No,
we can
as
handle
soon as you just to go off track here, as soon as you say that it's a community, all these automatic things kick in.
Oh, okay.
But don't they know that our catchphrase is "community is nudity"?
Yeah, exactly. I know. It's
And
just
how
everything.
dare you call me
Yeah,
over
excuse me?
18, Alex? My God, I haven't been this offended for, I don't know, since yesterday. Like,
How long?
yesterday.
Yeah, Gary, can you talk to us a little bit about that? Like a guy who's kind of had your foot in both worlds. How different is it? Is it harder now or easier now? What's the?
Oh, I think it's easier now. Yeah, and I think the scene is growing amazingly since we started out. That when we had it was such a pain in the butt dealing with printers and pain in the butt dealing with distributors who didn't know what to do with the product because comics were so alienated on the shops on the shelves in the newsagents, and no one knew what to do with them. And the comic, as I said before, I used to work in a newsagent, and the comics rack was I worked in a newsagent that was one of the few that had a really good selection of imports from the States. So we get all the Marvels and DCs and the horror comics and even the Australian reprints and the Newtons when they came out and all that stuff. And of course, me being the comic nerd that I am, I would just I actually forced the owner of the newsagent to open up a set of shelving that just showcased comics. So this strange little newsagent at Bardwell Park in Sydney that no one knew about had the most amazingly kept, pristine comics rack with all the comics all in alphabetical order and rotated around regularly, and all the bent ones would be removed, and the whole bit. It was a totally curated shelf space in the newsagent. And I was lucky enough that the owner went, oh well, let the guy, at least he's staying out of trouble. So but back in the day,
well, Gary, for my newsagents, 2 of the comic books that I picked up back in the day when I was a young fella was this. There's many more that I have, but I have lots of boxes. And the other one that blew my mind was also this one back in the day. And I randomly picked, I had a comic book newsagent dude, that appreciated comic books in the day. And when I'd steal my dad's money from his wallet, as you've all heard the story before, and zip down to the newsagents at 5 o'clock in the morning, those were amongst some of that, let's just say 5-year period. No wonder Dad was broke, comic books were being ciphered, But no, thank you for those, because I kept a close eye on, for example, like Ben Templesmith going well, who in the past you've discovered, and people like even if you're not talking to him now or whatever it is, but Ashley Wood, he went on to do some stuff for Marvel, Ghost Rider 2099.
Yep.
He had a period there that really hit home with me at that particular point.
Thanks, Dave.
Yeah, so no, good on you, man. You're a real champion. I'm glad to have met you tonight, Gary, because I would have felt a bit bummed
if I.
So yeah.
I wouldn't mind having a go at inking some of your stuff at some stage as well. So
my stuff, my stuff, really?
Yeah.
I'm excited because
I'll give it a go.
I can't believe the last week that I've had Gary. Seriously.
All right. What's wrong with that? Who else?
No, I'm not saying there's any. I can't believe the last week I've had. Culminated in Friday night sitting here with you, sir, and you just said to me that you'd love to have a crack at inking some of my stuff. I've died and gone to heaven, man. Seriously. Like, someone needs to take a photo of this shit, because you'll never see me happier, man. Like, honestly. I got tears in my eyes, man. Like, unbelievable.
Yeah, that's why I'm laughing so much, because I get the text messages from Lee about the week that he's been having, just dreams are coming true for him, and I know that you saying that is a mind blower. So I was just like, well, that's the end of a pretty good week for him.
Oh, mate, honestly, I don't know what to say, mate. But like that's blowing me out.
Awesome.
Well, I'll give it a crack. It may turn out to be shit, but I'll give it a crack.
Yeah, right. Oh, man. No, wow. That's awesome. Thank you.
Happy freaking birthday to you, Lee.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, mate. Like, only people that had known me closely would understand the week that I've had. And then you just saying that's just like, I apologize if it seems strange, but it's a passionate tear on the lines of that's really touched me, mate. Thank you. Yeah, for sure, man.
No worries at all.
For sure.
Yeah.
I'd love to see that. Wow.
Excellent. We'll do that, and we'll show the results at some stage.
Mm.
Yeah.
What was that?
I've had most of my night on the telephone here. I haven't been able to see anything that's going on, because there's only little tiny postage stamp size on not even that on my telephone. So I've only just got now back onto the computer. But I just like to say, Gary, but the Jackaroo stories your comics that you put out with that are the ones that resonate with me the most. I really, out of all the Australian comics that have come out, the Jackaroo is the one that I like the most. I really like the.
Oh, good stuff. Yeah, I don't think that's a big surprise, though. I have to admit.
What you say? You're not surprised? Did you say?
I'm not surprised by that at all. Yeah. So, but that's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Yeah. No, the writing is fantastic and the artwork is top notch. I really like them, mate. Great series. And if you're bringing it back, smaller. But yeah, no, I really enjoy that series, mate.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, more to come. I'm determined to get stuck back into it again, and lots of stories to tell. So, and it'll go in different directions that hopefully no one will expect as well, because there's that whole, different aspects of a character that you don't know about yet. Yeah, him and his shirts.
More shirts to rip.
Did I show Robbie's blood one? I can't remember.
Oh, yeah, go blood variant.
That's a ripper, isn't it?
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
Sorry, Robbie, I wasn't sure if I'd shown it already.
Yeah, no. Yeah, no,
I love how subtle, like that's
really good,
blood mixed with sweat. That's awesome. If that was me doing it, it'd be bright red. And it's like it's sitting on top of the t-shirt. It's a separate thing.
Thank
you haven't got your signature on that one, Robbie. What's going on? You're a bit slow there, mate.
I never put my signature on.
Oh, don't you? I thought you did.
No, never do.
Oh, I must be getting mixed up with Spedsies.
Yeah, probably. Two Robs. Two different Robs.
It's the two Robs.
It's all the more impressive that we always recognize it when it comes up. We always recognize it being Robbie's style.
Yeah.
It's because the eyes are always triangles. Just look at the eyes.
That's the giveaway, is it?
Yeah.
The shirt still stayed intact. I thought if there's going to be an update, I thought the shirt's going to be ripped and there's going to be some nipple action to challenge the YouTube censors.
Ah, right. And you've got that ready, have you, Alex?
Me?
Go on, rip it off the Hulk.
No. My nipples are for the after show.
Thank you.
Whoa, I won't be at the after show.
Alex has got an esky full of ice next to him. He's ready to go.
I've just got just water that I'm going to pour all over my chest.
Just make sure that hot pack, cold pack doesn't flip over to hot pack, mate.
So, Spedsy.
Wow. Yeah, well, I mean, normally we go to the question and answer portion of the show, but we're also 22 minutes over time. So what do you think, Sis?
We could go straight to promo.
Yeah. All right.
It usually takes half an hour.
We're going to try something new tonight, maybe as well.
Don't sound too excited, Dave.
Yeah, Dave.
Don't sound down. Oh, that takes about half an hour.
Use the inside voice, Dave. The inside voice.
I'm going to get up in the morning, bloody hell.
This bit, that voice takes half an hour. Lovely.
Nice, Pete.
Well done, Pete.
Looking good.
That's awesome, Peter.
Good on you, mate.
It won't take that long this time, Dave, except I'm going to check.
No, I was just being
Yeah, we're going to zoom through it.
There you go, look, Kayleen.
Oh, nice work, Pete.
Oh, we got some colour.
Nice.
Kayleen.
Well done, mate.
Amazing.
Very nice.
Kayleen, that's excellent.
Cheers.
Hey, that's something I was
Did
reading
you?
having a look through the
That's
comics
good now.
today, Gary, and I was looking through the one that the story that Greg Gates drew. You wrote, Greg Gates drew, and Dylan Naylor inked. Bloody good story and great artwork, of course. But I thought, oh geez, the Jackaroo's starting to look a bit like Captain Easy. His profile looked like Captain Easy.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, Roy Crane is a bit of an influence, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's creeping in as well. I love Roy Crane stuff.
Yeah.
And if any of you don't know who Roy Crane is, do a Google search and have a look at some of his artwork. He's absolutely amazing. He was around in the 30s and 40s, and he really pioneered comic strips, in particular the adventure strip with Wash Tubbs and Captain Easy. And it's a fantastic strip. It's just rollicking adventure. And that kind of stuff really inspires me as well.
Yeah. And actually, his writing, he does a lot of the colloquialisms and that in his writing, and they bend the spelling and all that, but it sounds like there's a Russian speaking and all that sort of stuff. And you do.
Yep.
Your era of comic writers, you and Tad and Dave and that do the same sort of thing. So it's great stuff. I don't know much.
Yeah, Crane used to make Easy really sound like a Texan as well. He was from Texas, so yeah, all those the way you could play with language in the word balloons was great. Yeah, fantastic stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
And all this stuff was being invented by these guys on the trot. I mean, there wasn't much precedent for the kind of stories and the way they were telling these stories. It was like a language that was being invented from week to week. And it's pretty staggering that all the stuff that inspires us today, if you really consider what was being done in the 20s and early 30s, it's all new. And these guys are doing it week in and week out and getting syndicated strips published in the newspapers, big broad Sunday strip style artwork. And it was brilliant, but they're all doing it for the first time. They were making it all up as they go, and we've got a lot to be thankful for with these guys. Yeah,
they were pioneers back then. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Brace yourself.
This poor person is looking through the newspaper for info on what projects our artists have been working on. And this lost individual is using a map to find where she can follow our artists on social media and buy their books. How about we save them the trouble and just tell them? We call this next segment Shameless Self-Promotion.
I like the claps.
Oh, yes. How can I not have that right next to me?
Well, I'll do his work for him.
Don't worry, Sis.
I failed my portal tonight.
There's 9 days left on this thing.
9 days left.
What we're holding is the proofs to present number 2. Sorry,
That's number 2, which is almost ready to print. And we've got 9 days to go.
You're over the line, aren't you?
Over the line.
Oh, I think there's a typo there. Is that a typo?
Yeah, no.
Yeah, we're fixing that. Don't worry, we're fixing that. It's all good.
Oh, okay. That's what the proof's for. Yeah.
That's
Nice.
Ryan Vella.
Yes.
That's Ryan Vella.
Yep.
That Vella fella.
Yeah.
What else you got, Sis? Is that basically just go
That's
check
it.
out?
I was going to put my ad on. I was just going to put the ad on to save myself talking. So,
go for it.
Can I do that? Go for it.
No.
ComX presents Issue 2. Two brand new anthologies continuing on from the success of Issue 1. Full of action, comedy, mystery, dark tales, and crazy shenanigans. 8 worlds, 2 books, 48 pages. One chance to make them yours.
Crazy shenanigans.
That's the link you want to go to down the bottom there. That's the link, presents.comx.studio. That'll take you to the Kickstarter. And that's
Yeah.
Who does the voiceovers on all these things?
On my ones is Morgan Quaid, and Spedsy's ones is a computer, I believe.
Except for the Rick McClune one. That's me doing it.
Except for the Rick McClune one, that is Rob himself.
Yeah.
Be a lone rider come through. I'm doing my
Yeah,
best.
that's the one.
Sounds like you need a lozenge.
Hey,
Hey, Andy.
Andrew.
Well, me, psychogenitor.com is where you find my books about toilets and chickens and turtles and all that good stuff. The Apparition Kickstarter just launched today, and I have me and Dave Dye have a little piece of art in the Apparition too. Then what's next? November 10th, Rick McClune Kickstarter drops. Me and Dave team up again. We've both got something in that. I write an issue and Dave draws an issue. One day we will combine our powers and do one together.
Is that voiceover again?
Yeah. November 15th, Old Man Rufus. I have nothing to do with it other than I will be buying it because it looks freaking great. Ryan Bella, Darren Close. And then I'll just cut Gary's lunch. November 16th, Adventure Illustrated number 2. I have nothing to do with that except that I will be buying that as well. Quick, Nick.
I'm just still working on my budgie book. I'm up to page 77 of 81. So close. real
Not
hard.
far off, champion.
Thank
This
you,
is the only
Kelly.
reason I watch this show, to find out how far along you are.
Oh,
I don't
yeah?
know what my life's going to be like when you've actually finished.
Yeah.
Oh,
There he is. Look at
None
that.
of us will ever
Oh,
know.
look at that.
You only get
Looking good, mate.
previews till then.
Nice.
Kayleen, what are you up to?
I am working on the final episode of Chapter 2 for Blue Star Rebellion, and at the moment I have released. This is a little promo picture of the most recent one. So if that strikes your fancy, if that makes you curious, it's Blue Star Rebellion. It's free. It's on Webtoon. Come give it some views and some likes.
Yeah.
Nice.
Excellent.
Help me in the algorithm.
The algorithm.
I just noticed the little
Deadly
fingers
algorithm.
doing the self-hugging thing. Nice.
Yeah.
Hey, fool! What's the?
Yeah, what's
I
up?
don't remember what the
What's up,
thing is.
fool? What's up, fool?
Yeah. What's up, fool?
Yeah, so I still do the. I don't know. I'm doing it. I'm still waiting for the next script for that one. So, but the intro, every time you watch the podcast on YouTube, the intro is done by me. I only did it once, but they screen it every week, so I was going on that. But also, I saw in the notes, but my internet was really crap at the beginning. But I saw in the notes that Darren was saying, "Good to see you doing well." I had a little bit of a scare last week, but I'm doing very good. So, thanks, Darren, and everybody else for all the well wishes and reaching out. I'll be fine. There are people with a lot worse thing. I just got freaked out on Friday, and now I'm okay. And the doctor says I'm not going to die for another 3 weeks.
Well, that's 3 more times we can find out who's hot. So
Exactly. Maybe more. I don't want to.
3 weeks.
If you cut salt from your diet, we can at least get 5 more who's hot.
Yeah.
Here's who's hot. Boom.
Yeah, I'm not cutting salt out of my diet. So my Eastern European the taste buds require I need to have like lard, salt, and onions on my bread. I don't know if that's so.
Right.
Other than that, also I still TikTok on Sloppy Tunes on Sloppy Bunny Tunes. .com, Sloppy Bunny Tunes on TikTok. Yeah. Sorry.
That sounds disgusting. You TikTok where?
On Sloppy Bunny Tunes. And it gets more worse. Like, it's just a farting girl. So if that's your thing, get up to my TikTok. There's a girl that farts. And there's a new character that was introduced there, and it's a boy. He also farts. So, keeping the brow high. Yeah. And I think I've talked too much about myself. So who's next? Is it somebody below, or is it somebody?
Am I right though, Alex? Did you spend some time in Shanghai at some point?
Yeah, there was a time there. Oh, so, anyways, this time in I was in Lujiao's Way with some friends. No, I'm joking.
Yeah,
It's,
all right. It's a joke, guys. It's a joke.
I don't know jokes, Rob. I don't know how jokes work. I just know how to drag things on.
Oh, come on, 007. You know you want it.
Gary, tell us where we can find your stuff.
Facebook and Twitter and GaryChaloner.com, I suppose. But yeah, the Kickstarter, as you said, starting for Adventure Illustrated #2 on November 16, right up the Rue Rectum of Darren Close, who's the day before with Old Man Rufus. And also still updating the Australian Comics Database website with new entries, hitting the 1,400 copy or entries limit now. So getting more and more comics up on that database as well. And that's keeping me out of trouble. So that'll do for now. Yeah, hit the Kickstarter when it goes live.
Now, the only problem, he's an old man, Rufus, and if you're, an old man's rectum, hemorrhoids is a real problem as you get older. So, just stay away from
No. Why do you think I'm wearing this fez?
You've got another small fez and another. Anyway, Mr. Dave Dye.
I've am receiving edits for the Time Fault job that I'm comic that I'm working on with Roger Stitson. He's rereading and reading and picking out the faults and things I've got to fix up. So that's coming back to me. I've got a page or two done for my Vamoose story.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, there's a typo.
Holy
Yeah.
This is looking
moly.
good.
So I've got 2
Nick,
Love
pages.
it.
Ray, are you watching?
Toonie Day.
Nice.
That's
That's a bit of a cartoony style for you there. It's something a little bit different with those characters.
something a bit different. And it's good
Wow.
fun doing that. I enjoy doing those stuff.
Yeah.
And also, I've got. Oh yeah, I just want to say, you had Morgan Quaid do our. He does a lot of stuff for us. He's very good for the
He does.
show.
He does.
He had this Kickstarter, and I've got this book, and
That's
I
a
can try
brilliant
and grab
book,
a hold of
man.
it.
Seriously, that is a great
good.
book. I've
Yeah.
got that as well. It was awesome.
So that's come in. I haven't finished reading that. I started reading that one.
Idle
but,
thuggery.
this was one that Darren Close had something to do with this Daniel Reed's Mycelium. That's a great read if you ever get a chance to get a hold of a copy of that now. If you didn't get the Kickstarter, you'll have to somehow get it somewhere. Daniel will sell it to you on his site, which I don't know where it is.
That's an ongoing series too, apparently. So if he kickstarts the
is.
second issue, you'll be able to get
Right.
the first. Blah blah blah. Yeah.
Great stuff, great artist, great writer. So you get a hold of it. Nat Carmichael's got a Kickstarter going with Dylan Naylor's book. Get a hold of that if you can.
Trisha?
And Darren Cosiol's got a Kickstarter going for Dark Oz. So
Yeah.
Yep.
they're the only ones I can think of
Retro
offhand.
sci-fi. Is it 9 or 10?
I can't remember now. Might be
Well,
nine.
it's getting up there. Getting up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So
And
okay,
shout
that's
out-
enough for me.
Shout out to Roger Stitson, who in the Spodsy debacle today gave me a nice "G'day, Spud." Made me feel great.
Thanks, Roger.
Yeah, Mr.
Spongy,
Chalker.
the potato in a toilet.
Yeah.
I was going to link that because I was going to link that to my plush bear, which is Spud the Bear.
Oh,
So was that? So
Nice segue.
somebody's suing somebody.
Yeah.
I'm out of it. So if I'm in
Yeah,
the
sort
wrong,
it out.
I'm not involved
Sort
anymore.
it out.
I have left Hong Kong. But
lawsuits flying every which way.
I think they're still
How
available
about
on
you, Lee?
Facebook.
Oh, sorry.
How's your week been, Lee? Anything of note happen?
Anything exciting?
Yeah, there's actually a few. Yeah, it's been an unusual week for me. Yeah, that's Battle for Bustle issue 4 is done, and with Sizzle and the guys at ComX and everything.
Yeah, we're
ready
going
to
over
rock
it
and
now.
roll. I've had some amazing storytelling time with Spedsy and a good mate of mine, Ryan Vella, and a friend of mine, Ben Sullivan. We're working on a project at the moment that is coming together a lot quicker than is possibly expected. But there's some, it's been a really brilliant week, culminated by Gary, you offering to ink some of my artwork tonight. I really have no other words other than I'm busy.
Oh, so we
Things
can't
are
do it
good.
because you're busy?
No. I'm doing no, Gary. Like, no. We're doing that. It's look, honestly, I can't explain to you how this week has been. It really has been amazing, and it's incredible. So thank you very much for anyone. The Battle for Bustle 4 will be available. ComX Studios, battleforbustle.com. All through the
Excellent.
available channels that we know of here. And it's it's been brilliant. So thank
Looking
you.
forward to it, mate.
Loving artwork and creativity and comic books at the moment. Loving the community, and I guess it's bloody me that coined the phrase. Like, community is unity. It's a beautiful thing.
Nice.
So, there you go.
Awesome.
Give it time.
Mr. Lawson.
Yeah, same old. Just getting the final touches on Torn issue 3 done, and then on to issue 4, and on from there after that with whatever comes next. Just draw lots more strange people and where is it? and water and explosions and things. Yeah.
Can we bring that up?
Nice.
Bring that one up.
Better with every line, mate.
Yeah, it's great
Have you
stuff.
got anything officially lined up after Torn 4? Have you got anything officially lined up?
Torn 5.
Oh, okay.
After that, I believe I'll be doing Rick McClune.
Right.
And I've got a little thing in the pipeline with Dave as well. So, yeah.
Dave,
Yeah, cool.
Dave DeVries, so that'll be exciting when you get
Don't
that one
forget
off.
last names.
I thought it was David Letterman.
Yeah. I thought it was Davy Jones.
Man, like I've said before, though, not to take up time, like Peter, your artwork over the time that I've seen you, man, improved out of sight. It's so good, man. Like, credit
Yeah,
to
I
you.
just wish I could get faster, mate.
Mate, no, seriously, credit, though. Like,
No, thank you. That's really
awesome. Big fan.
Yeah. I second that. Yeah. And yeah, we all could get a bit faster, I suppose. So don't let that get you too down.
cool. No, no, just time.
Yep.
Time's nothing.
Yeah.
Robbie.
Over to you, Robbie.
You can find me. Oh, haven't seen it printed yet. I'm loving it.
There it is.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I sent you a message. I sent it
That's
to the
a
wrong
ripper
address.
story. Yeah, that's good work. You did a good job there, Robbie, on that. Yeah,
Can't wait
that's
to see
a
that
ripper,
printed.
mate.
That was written by Peter Wilson,
Yeah.
my
that's
good
right.
bro.
Nice.
Yeah, you can find me on Saddle Slap on Instagram. And
Nice.
yeah, can I use this opportunity to plug a bit of Peter's stuff or what?
No,
Yeah.
not at
You,
all.
No?
you do
Oh,
whatever you
no.
want, mate.
Now, Peter said nice things to me, so go for it. Pimp him.
Crimson and Rascals comics being sold at ComX's shop at the moment. So check them out. They're really good.
They
But
are.
yeah, check me out on Saddle Slap if you're interested in my triangle eyes. And we'll go from there.
We'll be looking for that now.
That's the name of your first album, Triangle Eyes.
Well, it's that part of the show where I just say thank you a bunch of times. So thank you to everyone who's watching. Thank you to everyone here in the room. Gary, thank you to you. You paved the way for a lot of us. And
Yes.
yeah, well, I'm not really joking when I say you're a couple of the heads on the Mount Rushmore of Australian comics. And
100%.
you've been nothing but a champion for all creators from Australia. And I was in a band, everybody. I don't know if you know. It was a very competitive
Was it in
place.
Shanghai or
Everyone,
here in Melbourne?
everyone fighting
Shanghai.
for their spot. And then I came to comics, and people like yourself, Dave DeVries, Bo Jardine, all the sort of veterans have been nothing but welcoming, supportive, full of advice. And shows like tonight with yourself is just another example of how awesome all you guys are. And
We're full of something, that's for sure.
yeah, so basically, long story short, thank you so much, Gary, for joining us. Thank you, everybody at home, for watching. We're back next week with Kieran Jack drawing the Apparition, supporting his Kickstarter that launched today, I believe. Other than that, where else can they go, Sizzle, before we wrap this thing up?
They can go to comx.shop to pick up Rob's comics. Alex, when we get to issue 3, we've got some of Dave Dye's stuff there. We'll have Lee's stuff there soon. And as Robbie said, there is Peter's stuff there as well. And we've also got a bit of Radical from Ed Kearsley. And hopefully I haven't forgot anyone.
Dave
and
Dye's
Bronwyn.
Tales.
Bronwyn from Zach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And soon Battle for Bustle 4.
Yes.
Yeah,
Indeed.
so alrighty. Well, we'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel. Thanks so much, everybody. Catch ya
Well,
on the road.
we drank, we drew, we talked nonsense. Now it's time to say goodbye. Don't cry, dry your eye, for there are many cool comics you can buy. ComX.shop is full of comics from a bunch of the creators you just watched. Amazing Tales by Dave Dye. The Devil's Toilet by Spedsy. ComX Presents featuring Ed Kearsley, Tony Manzi, Duncan Pranavicius, Peter Wilson, Lee Chalker, Zach George, and so much more. The list is longer than this outro. See you next Friday for more drinking and drawing. Alright Sizzle, press the button. Sizzle? Sizzle, press the damn button. Sizzle you turkey, press the goddamn button. What are you waiting for?